Okay, good evening, everyone. Tonight I will be talking about global manufacturing and supply chain management. So this will be an interesting topic. Okay, so these are some of the topics that I will be mentioning and talking about tonight. So dimensions of global manufacturing, benefits of global supply chain management, role of information systems, issues of quality in global supply chain, and transportation network. But before we start with all of that, I want to show you one very, very interesting video, because that video is making a very unusual comparisons to our human body and with outsourcing or expanding globally. So let's see what they have to say about this particular topic, and then we'll continue.
Organizations that manufacture products obviously rely on excellent suppliers and effective and efficient logistics systems. But there's no chance in creating a high-quality product without an excellent manufacturing facility. Manufacturing facilities are oftentimes the hearts of these types of organizations. Nonetheless, today we see many companies looking to relocate their manufacturing facilities to countries that offer cheaper labor, tax incentives, and a number of other potential benefits. A lazy executive would see the basic savings and costs and immediately jump at the opportunity to relocate manufacturing, thinking that the company would become significantly more profitable overnight. This would be similar to you receiving the heart of a world-class marathoner in a heart transplant and then thinking you'd be ready to win an Olympic marathon the next day. The trauma to you during the transplant would slow down your entire body, and it would require a longer period of time to properly heal. Not to mention the fact that there would be a significant chance your body might reject the heart. And of course, just because you now have a very healthy heart doesn't mean that your bones, muscles, blood vessels, and other vital organs would be as healthy. In the end, your transplant significantly taxed the health of your body in the short run, and there's no guarantee you'll see significant gains in the long run. Like a transplant surgeon, a global supply chain manager has to understand the trauma associated with relocating key facilities of vital operational importance. Actually, a global supply chain manager is not only responsible for the transplant, but also for facilitating the healing process. Outsourcing and offshoring projects aren't the only things that global supply chain managers are responsible for, though. They're also tasked with expanding operations in an effort to reach new markets. Imagine trying to extend your operations by growing one of your arms an extra 2 feet in 1 week. Imagine the pain. Imagine the fragile state of that arm during and after growth. Imagine the amount of nutrients required to facilitate that abnormal growth. Is the message that outsourcing, offshoring, and global expansion are bad things? Not at all. Successful companies like Toyota, Apple, Dell, Walmart, Nokia, and Procter & Gamble are all products of world-class global supply chains. The message is that these are not decisions that should be taken lightly. Building and maintaining a strong, healthy body is difficult enough, but when you start to ponder drastic changes to a healthy body, you require the guidance of an expert that understands the intricate dynamics of a complex organism. Global supply chain managers can provide that guidance. They not only have expertise in purchasing, operations, and logistics, they have an understanding of cultures, regulations, currencies, technology, infrastructure, and resource availability at the global level. So, don't put your company and your supply chain under the knife of an amateur. Make sure you have a team of world-class global supply chain managers to guide you in the ultra-competitive global economy.
Okay, I wanted to start with this one because this pretty much gives you in a nutshell what supply chain management is all about, but even more gives you how important it is. And sometimes we are maybe too focused on one part of the whole process, maybe on manufacturing, maybe on marketing. But actually, it's the whole idea of this supply chain, in a sense, from the very beginning when we are dealing with raw materials, then transferring those raw materials to probably factory, then transferring that to the through transportation system to different storages and different wholesales and finally retailers, and then finally getting to you, to us as a customer. So now we are going to see how right he was or he is, and what are the basically, when we talk about why manufacture abroad, and we talk about that in the whole course, why will you go abroad? Why not do everything at home? The reasons are many, but these are some of the very, very few. Obviously, we want to reduce the cost. So we are not going to go and expand our manufacturing necessarily in the country where we have higher costs. Most likely, we are going to expand our manufacturing in the country where we have lower cost. I'm saying most likely, not in every single situation, because when you look different companies, let's say automobile companies around the world, and pretty much most important ones are present in the United States, and we know that U.S. market is not the cheapest one in a sense as far as how much they pay their own workers. So it's not only for the cost, it's definitely for expanding the market. But because you will be operating in that country where your final customer is, you will be actually reducing the cost of transportation. You will be reducing cost of any maybe potential conflict, because they will be regarding your company now as a local company. Obviously, if we are so much linked to raw materials, we want to go where the raw materials are. If we are in a business that we need steel industry, we want where to find where the steel is. And as I said here, we want new markets and multi-point communication, but the ultimate goal is definitely maximizing shareholder wealth. So that's the whole point why we are where we are when we focus on a global supply chain management and a global manufacturing as well. There is also this interesting graph that I found that it states that basically 90% of global demand is not fully satisfied by local supply, which then means that we have to go globally because there is so much more outside that we can benefit. And as you can see here, global GDP from 1960s to 2010 was growing, but you see how much more export was growing, much more significantly than actually GDP. Global manufacturing strategies. What do you think about, particularly all of you who are not students, who are actually professionals, if you want to share your experiences regarding this manufacturing compatibility? When you're looking around the globe, where else should I put and who should I align myself with? And you're looking about potentially establishing your manufacturing facilities in different countries. And then you're looking here in all those characteristics. Compatibility depends on efficiency, dependability, quality, flexibility, innovation. So basically, this is what you will be looking on that potential foreign markets where you're going to establish your facility, or maybe through mergers and acquisitions. Take one and then, merge or acquire another company. Anything that you would like to maybe add here? Any experiences with this in particular? Anybody? Okay, well, basically, obviously you want to go where there is more efficiency. You want to go where the quality, good quality, it's not only about cost, it's really about the quality. You don't want to go just for the cost side somewhere else and then produce really very poor quality product. Why will you not like to produce very poor quality product? What can be the consequences of producing very low quality product? You will not sell. Okay, why wouldn't you not sell? What will be the other reason?
because of low quality. Yeah. And there are a lot of other goods, quality of which better than your, and consumer will go down exactly.
So it's always important not only to think about this short term. I want to save few bucks. I want to save few rubles, few euros. You want to think about your reputation as well. Because as I said some time ago, it's very difficult to build your reputation. However, unfortunately, it's very easy to lose your reputation. And you definitely don't want that to happen. Now, when we are thinking where should we go, we have maybe like three general options. So the first one will be, not necessarily the first one, so we can do multi-domestic. In a sense, we want our operations to be in every single country that we actually are having our potential customers. We also can go with regional manufacturing facilities or in a specific zone. That means that I want regionally to position my manufacturing, so from there I will be serving all neighboring countries, or I can actually just stay centralized and be in one country. So there are those three options. And then you also have to decide why go with a centralized location, meaning that you will be just producing in this country, and then all countries in the world will be supplied from that location. So think about it. Why go with centralized? Or why will you go with multi-domestic? Meaning that you will want to have operations in all those different countries where you basically have customers. Or why will you go with the regional option? That you will actually have your facility in one center in that particular region, and then from there serve all of those potential customers.
I guess it depends on the income which you get from these zones or countries. The recent example of, I guess, Chevrolet Audi Group left Europe, not because it was very bad results, but still they start to lose their money in Europe, and then they decided to concentrate on the US and I guess some Asian countries. And it's not only because of this current situation, but also about long-term perspective, that if they lose some money now, in the future they will lose even more because this process starts already.
So I guess you might want a centralized location because it's much easier to regulate from only one facility. But in the case of multi-domestic location, you may save some money from this transfer limitations. So
What actually the reason why you may think about multi-domestic location is if the demand from the local market is so high, in the sense that it's so different that you need to customize production for that particular market. And that makes sense then to be on that particular market, and because they are really requiring that particular thing, this shape, this form, and all of that. Where you can have a centralized location, you gave a very good example, and then when you have a specific zone or regional, that means that probably in that particular region, they are in a certain way willing and able and desiring pretty much the same type of product, so you don't need to specialize, customize so much. We have been talking about these particular issues, transportation costs, duties, proximity to customers, foreign exchange rate, economies of scale, and all of those things during the whole duration of this course. So obviously, if we have high taxes in a country, will you prefer to locate your operations in the country with higher taxes or in a country with lower taxes? Lower taxes. Okay, so that's a clear cut. Absolutely. Will you prefer to locate your operations where there are no roads, or where there are very well established transportation system? Okay. No, but actually you will like because that's your supply. You have to transfer that product to all over different parts of that country, different parts in the region, different parts in the world. So you will definitely need a good transportation system and very well developed. Now, as far as plant layout, planning strategies, I mean, that will really, really depend on the particular situation in that particular location, because every country is different and giving you different, for example, physical arrangements of economic activity. In a sense, like where should you locate? Should you locate close to downtown? Should you locate outside? Should you locate close to the city? Should you locate close to the village? And all those sorts of things. So that will be very, very unique, and that will be depending on that particular country and the situation in that particular country. And now, one of the best examples when we talk about supply chain management is really, really Toyota, because they have, in a certain way, almost revolutionized this whole area of how do you do production globally, and also how do you strive for the best quality of your product. So let's see this video.
Toyota knows how to make cars. It does it so well, it became the first company to produce more than 10 million a year. Its success is rooted in a special system and began what's now known as lean manufacturing, an ethos emulated by companies around the world to make products faster, cheaper, and better. Here's how Toyota changed the way we make things. Following the Second World War, Japan was left in a precarious economic position.
Steel and other metals are scarce.
Already disadvantaged by lacking natural resources, materials were hard to come by, and companies had to be creative to compete. Toyota's founder, Sekiichi Toyoda, had started a loom business, but it was his son Kichiro who founded the motor company in 1937. They were used to working within narrow margins. As the shortage of materials increased during the war, the number of headlamps on its Model K truck was reduced to one, and it only had brakes on one of the axles. The turning point for Toyota's production system would come in the early 50s, when Kichiro's cousin Eiji would travel to the US with a veteran loom machinist, Taiichi Ono. They visited Ford's River Rouge plant in Michigan and were impressed by the scale of the operation, but knew that in cash-strapped Japan, companies didn't have the resources for such a system. Having months' worth of stock sitting in a warehouse would tie up precious capital they didn't have. Instead, what truly impressed Ono was a visit to a supermarket, a Piggly Wiggly, according to legend. Japan didn't really have self-service stores at this point, and he was struck by the way customers could choose exactly what they wanted, when they wanted. He decided to model his production line on a similar idea. With the supermarket formula, only enough parts were produced in the first phase to replace what was used in the second, and so on. This is where the just-in-time system really took shape. Toyota was able to eliminate much of the waste in Ford's system, making smaller numbers of parts to be used when it needed them, allowing the company to operate on a tighter budget. As part of this, Ono developed Kanban, a sign-based scheduling method which shows goods in production, and goods out. It's now seen as a precursor to barcodes. Ono and Toyota also noticed that American car companies were still employing many of Henry Ford's early production techniques. They kept operations at full tilt in order to maximize efficiencies of scale, but then had to repair defective cars after they rolled off the line. Ono believed this caused more problems and didn't encourage workers or machines to stop making the mistake. So he placed a cord above every station which any worker could pull to stop the entire assembly if they spotted a problem. The whole team would work on it to prevent it from happening again. As teams identified more problems, the number of errors began to drop dramatically. Combined with a culture of continuous incremental improvement called Kaizen, the Toyota production system built a brand known for making reliable and affordable cars. But Toyota was also getting good at producing cars quickly. In 1962, the company had produced 1 million vehicles. By 1972, they'd produced 10 million. It was around that time that the efficiencies of their factories enabled Toyota to produce a car every 1.6 man-hours, much lower than their competitors in the US, Sweden and Germany. And as the oil crises of the decade sent gas prices higher, cheap-to-run Japanese cars became much more appealing to Americans, whose powerful but gas-guzzling vehicles suddenly became very expensive to run. Today, Toyota has made over 250 million vehicles. Others have looked to them to learn the lessons of lean, combining craft with mass production, avoiding waste while striving for constant improvement. Boeing is perhaps the most famous, restructuring a plant to better suit TPS. Intel is another long-time lean ambassador and is exploring the principles in the context of AI and the Internet of Things. A Canadian hospital even used Toyota's system to decrease wait times in its ER. The Toyota production system changed not just how cars are made globally, but how we approach making things full stop. It also showed that there's always a better way to make a product.
What do you think about their idea to not wait for the defective cars to get to the final stage of production, but literally to stop production the moment they see actually that something is defective, and then all of them, get around and look for the cause of that defect? What do you think about that one?
Well, I think it will be harder to eliminate the problem at the final stages if they just notice it there, in opposite of when they destroy it as they notice. So it works with any other kind of work, not just production.
Anybody else would like to add something here? By the way, they're not destroying. Yeah, I know that you didn't mean that. I just want to clarify that. Yes.
So probably these, bugs or difficulties in some steps of production works like a complex percent. So it's better and easier to fix it now and don't fix it after car is produced, because you can find some details. And also it's more chance that you just fix one thing, and at the finish you have the whole car without, and you don't need to stop production on this car and try to understand what's wrong and try to change in a ready car.
And also in the Toyota's Toyota's assembly variant, workers also exchange the information, and they know what happens with the product, and they know how to fix it better.
All excellent points. I would just like to add something to the last one that Leonid mentioned. This is really, really very important, because in a certain way you are empowering the workers. You're empowering, and it's very, very, very important, because they feel they are the ones who can make a difference in this company. So, and that's very important for their morale and obviously for their final results. Very good. Now, I want to switch to supply chain management and global supply chain management. And basically, when we talk about supply chain management, we think about flows of raw materials, components, information, finance through their networks, suppliers, assemblies, and distributors. Okay, so many words. And now let's see all of those words in pictures, because I know that you like pictures as well. And as they say here, picture is better than 1,000 words. How many words would be better than 3 pictures? So we have here 3 pictures. And again, this one obviously explains very, very easily in pictures what the supply chain is all about. So we are going to start with the supplier, going to the manufacturing, distributor, retailer, and customer. Now, we have here the whole purpose of supply chain. The whole purpose of supply chain is really to try to match supply side with the demand side. To match what customers want with what producers are producing. Why do you think it's not that easy to match supply with the demand? Why it's not easy to match what customers want with what the companies are producing, making? Yeah.
Because you get the feedback after you have already produced the product.
Anything else that somebody would like to try? Okay, this one. I'll get there. I get there. This is another way why it is actually kind of difficult and challenging to, and this is the supply side, and then this is the distribution, and then finally with this we have this customer. As you probably know, sometimes it happens that the stores have everything until you really look for one particular thing. And then you cannot find that one particular thing. So obviously it's not that easy to match supply and demand. But here are some of the reasons why it is. Because the customers can change their desire. Today they want something. And as you know, the holidays are approaching. So our demand for holidays is a little bit different than our demand in maybe like November or October. The other reason is fragmentation of supply chain, conflicting objectives of supply chain. And now let me just cut on this one because this is actually important. This is what marketing and sales would want. They actually want more inventory. Sales will like to have as much inventory as possible because when the customer comes, they will then have and sell them what they have. On the other side, we have the production. We like actually to get the bigger orders. When they're producing, they don't want to produce only 10 units. They prefer to produce 10,000 units. Why? Because of the fixed costs. If you're producing 10 units and 10,000 units, your fixed costs are going to stay the same. However, your fixed costs per produced unit are going significantly to drop. And then again, you also have that learning curve. If you're producing more units, you will be learning. You will be getting faster. What you need to avoid, and you will be more productive. On the other side, distribution wants full truckloads, like depot cost and so forth. So those are the reasons why really matching supply and demand is a little bit difficult. I'm going quickly to go back. And then finally, here what we have is, this is what we would like to achieve. We will, in a certain way, what they said, the right person at the right spot at the right price. So basically, we would like to have a right product, the right price, the right store, the right quantity, the right customer, and time, the right time. And then definitely the ultimate goal is to make a higher profit. So supply chain management should actually try to match all of those things so that we match all those right things and then finally get a higher profit. However, as you can imagine, and you already know that by any type of experience that you may have working for any company or just simply hearing anecdotally what the company A is doing and what are their problems, at every point of this supply chain management, we may have issues. We may have that. We may have shortages. We have wrong material. We may have high inventories. Why are high inventories not good to have? What do you think? Why high inventory is not good to have? That means that you have so many products waiting to be sold, to be transferred to another distribution channel. It's not good because obviously that costs money. And if that stays for a week, for 2 weeks, to 4 weeks, you have to pay money. for all those people who are working there, to facility and all of that. So obviously you don't want to keep high inventories. You can have also ineffective promotions. And I'll give you later on one interesting example about that one. So again, not an easy thing, but the whole point is because it really costs a lot of money, we want to cut on all of those shortages or wrong positioning, or actually so much of certain products in inventories that we will be paying and we don't need to do that. These are different companies and how much is their supply chain, they have global supply chain. And as you can see, Dell actually has among all of them the very, very high 20%, 23% of their production is actually global supply chain. And there are projections that we will reach that level for pretty much most of those companies in last year. Now, this is another one that I would like to see, because here we have experts who are telling us why supply chain is so important and how you can actually make it your competitive advantage.
It's truly one-sided. You know, this is what the customer needs. This is what they expect. Either you do it or you don't have the business.
As businesses do a better job of producing results for consumers, the consumer demands in turn rise.
It's absolutely critical that you're able to execute at a very high level in a very consistent manner.
In order for a company to become a market leader, they need to address their supply chain issues. So it's delivery on the promise of I will get you the item.
Supply chain solutions, just as a whole, are not necessarily being, segregated out anymore as just a cost efficiency, mode. They actually are now starting to translate into what does it actually mean for the customer? And, the impact isn't just that you could potentially lose a sale, okay? It's that you can lose the trust. It's that you can lose the confidence.
Some of the biggest challenges that we or the industry will face over the next several years is really supply chain complexity.
The complexity of a supply chain exists within a company because there's many different owners of the pieces of the supply chain. And a lot of companies, these don't feed up to one person.
You've got to turn to the people, the experts in the industry to help you with it, to do the network analysis, do the studies, and present the best cases for you, present a business case for your supply chain to provide you with enough information to make solid decisions.
Is it a cost of business that we're doing this just to stay even, just so that we can compete? Is it a return on investment because it's going to make us a differentiator? And work with them on why are we doing this, way beyond just the dollars of it.
You can't make decisions or look at a cost versus return for one given area when that may in fact impact other areas of the supply chain. So I think it's very important that you bring in functional business leaders from all areas of the supply chain, both to make sure that you're looking at all the cost and benefit impacts, as well as to establish buy-in for the overall project.
You have to have operations accept the new processes. You have to have IT to make sure that the system is working correctly. Engineering needs to make sure the warehouse is laid out properly. When you first attack a project, those people don't talk to each other.
The supply chain is now becoming a strategic weapon where you can use it to be able to make those better promises to customers. And it can give you new ways to make money and new ways to differentiate yourself and create competitive advantage.
Okay, do you maybe know any successful Russian company that can, or maybe unsuccessful, there is having some problems with this supply chain management? Does any company, any news, any anecdotal, maybe you had relatives, friends, family members working in some of those companies, have you know anything that you would like to share as example of the importance or the difficulties or challenges of supply chain management from Russia perspective? I guess maybe not yet. Okay, maybe later. Goals of global supply chain management is really to do all of those things. So it's to develop and maintain strategic and operational aspects of global supply chain, identify and leverage industry globalization drivers, have knowledge of and leverage the worldwide infrastructure, and manage coordination and integration of global supply chain. Now, the key word here is this really is a leverage of logistics, purchasing, operation, and market channels. So all of that you want to leverage with this operational management. Now, one of the things that you can ask yourself is if you are working in a particular industry, you will definitely want to know how global is the industry that you operate in. So obviously, if it is more global, that's an indicator for you that you will actually also have to think about this global approach. How global should a firm's strategy be? Does that mean 10%, 100%? And finally, how global should the supply chain be? And of course, there is always this on one side and on the other side, and the truth is always, or maybe the best option is somewhere in between. So when we ask this question about the industry and how global the industry is, we can have it can be over here. So it's 100% local, or just operating in the country. And if that's what we were doing is, as a company belonging to this industry, then obviously if we are just producing in the country, we will be missing those opportunities that may actually pop up in some other parts of the world. On another hand, if we are thinking about to go 100% global, that may also not necessarily be the best option, because obviously when you go global, it costs a lot of money. There is a higher risk. And all of those sorts of things that we talk about, culture, exchange rate, different laws, regulations, taxes, tariffs, you name it. So obviously, if this is the average for the industry, you will like to be somewhere here. Somewhere out, that would be kind of ideal strategy for you. Not 100% global, not 100% local. Be somewhere in between. And these are the drivers, cost driver for globalization. As you can see here, insurance is 62, cement, watches and clocks, industrial credit cards, quite high, 69, computer software, air transportation, and computer hardware, almost like 76% is cost driven. And that's why we have, for computers. How many of you have, okay, let's hear who has Apple. Okay, who has Dell? Okay, who has Asus? Okay, who has other? Okay, Samsung and so forth. As you can see, computer hardware, now you have all those different brands and maybe some others that I didn't mention, and I apologize. But where do you think that all those laptops are made? So you see, although there are all those different brand names that we just talked about, cost globalization drivers for making those computers is so high that they are pretty much maybe even made in the same company, in the same city, where this laptop or that other laptop is made. So all of those are reasons and maybe practical applications so you can see and relate to that when we just talk about this computer hardware. And these are some percentages for inventory positions and on which stage you will have certain percentage of inventories. And then finally, this is purchasing activities, the view by C-suite executives. Those are the most important executives. And they were basically asking them how much of domestic purchasing, international purchasing, and global purchasing you are making and all of that. And I will just focus on the last one, that they're actually predicting that from 30% in 2015, to 2023 to 61% will be global purchasing activities integrated across worldwide locations and functional groups. So definitely the projections are that we'll be having more and more of this integration at that global level. Explaining performance of those companies, 70% depends on the global strategy, but there are indication that 25% very soon will be depend on this global supply chain. So definitely very, very important factor in evaluating and being sure that it functions. And one more time, network of facilities, we already talked about that, materials, raw materials, finished goods, procurement, logistics, and then eliminating those redundancy, delays, costs, and so forth. What do you think about this wonderful picture that I think no matter where you are, I'm sure in one way or another, you faced, or you know somebody who faced a similar situation, losing sight of the common objective. Those guys, you know, this boat is kind of sinking, but those are like kind of, who cares? It's happening over there, nothing to do with me. And this is unfortunately happening, you know, it can happen in real life, it can happen in family life, it can happen in organizational life. And this is the importance of that really holistic approach. It's not only about your department, it's actually about the company as a whole. Role of information systems. Is anybody in here in information systems or linked to information systems? Or any experience that you know? Is there anybody majoring here in international information systems or IT? Okay. So what for your study? Why it is important to actually major in IT? Why is that important? We had one person over there who is helping me all the time. Maybe he can share also some of his experiences with IT. Why did you choose IT? It's interesting. Okay. Well, definitely, you know, like it's interesting, but it's also very, very useful. And information systems are not only about IT. It's much more broader than just the information technology. Information systems will include, obviously, technology, but also management. Based on how successful you are in this area, you can actually significantly reduce costs, or you can really, really have a lot of problems. And that's why the role of these information systems is really to coordinate, integrate order processing, inventory allocations, order fulfillment, and all of those important factors. Now, here are those interesting stories. And I would like you to read this one for yourself. And then maybe we can talk about that one, or maybe you know some similar stories that happened. Very, very interesting story. So this is an example where this was happening. There was no coordination between departments. So what we have here is that obviously the company had a problem not selling one particular car, which was green. And then obviously the marketing department wanted to do everything, promotion of that one, so there will be more people demanding this car. Sounds very, very good, but in the process, they forgot to communicate their marketing campaign with the production department, and the production department just read those numbers. Information system, you're reading the numbers. You really don't know the real cause of that number. That's why I always want you, when you see the number, I know that some of you will be taking statistics in next term, but for all of you, don't just focus on the number. Try to figure it out. What is behind that number? So in this particular case, the number was showing high sales. what the manufacturing department decided, wow, everybody wants this type car, let's do all the green cars. And of course, that was that miscommunication. That's why information systems are really, really important. But it's also very important when you work for a company to be sure that you communicate with other departments. Because you cannot have, no matter at which floor you sit and what you do, you can never have the whole picture about what the company is about and how the company is functioning and where the problems and who can basically help you. This is another example. So we have two companies. Actually, one is not a company. There are 3 companies in the United States and very, very different approaches. How they're communicating with their suppliers. So the first one is in United States. The second one is in Toyota, so Japanese company. In the first case, the American companies, automobile companies, really have this, in a certain way, confrontational approach toward their suppliers. And they really have those targets. You know, this is how much I'm going to pay for this particular supply coming from all those suppliers. So you're putting them in a certain way of kind of even a war between them. And obviously, if you read this one here by Director Interior Systems Supplier, basically what he said, you can't trust anyone. So they're really not trusting their suppliers. Now look about this, a different approach also about suppliers when you are again in a certain way empowering your suppliers. You're talking to them. You're giving them more say. What can we do? How we can improve? And what they're saying is basically is if we do right, Toyota is going to reward us, and Toyota is our best customer. 2 different approaches and most likely 2 different results. Now, this is also important. Who said that has to get Dell? You have Dell? Do you have Dell? Dell laptop. Okay, so Dell really in a certain way revolutionized the whole industry of laptops and computers for that matter, because this was that traditional way of supply chain. We have a suppliers, raw materials and all of that. Then we have HP, Hewlett Packard, and then we have transferring that to the wholesale, and then finally transferring that to the retailer, and then the customer gets there and buys it. Why Dell revolutionized the whole process is they introduced really this customized laptop. You are not really going to the wholesale. You are directly going on their site. You are ordering. I want this color. I want this composition of all other characteristics that my laptop, my computer will have. And they directly communicated that to their company. That is, by the way, again, yes, mostly in China. And of course, once you eliminate those guys, although they are now selling in the retail stores as well, you are significantly reducing costs. And not only that you are reducing costs, but you're having more satisfied customer. Because now this is my laptop, this is my computer, nobody else has it like this, and it's exactly organized in the way with all those characteristics that are important for me. As always, in order for you to understand and in order for you to know that something is working or not working, you have to have some measurement. So we can introduce the particular program, but if we don't have the metrics, how we are going to measure the efficacy of that program, then we really don't know, is it working or is it not working? That's why for everything that you do, and particularly if you're working in a company or if you're working at university as well, if we are making any significant changes, you must actually have the measurement. How I am measuring results. And in this way, we have to measure the cost of supply chain and the performance in order to know this is working, this is the reason why we need to have it, or these are the areas where we need to change something. And as you can see here, we can actually measure 3 types of cost: total supply chain cost, inventory turnover, weeks of inventory, and we can also then focus on the quality of customer service, average response time. Okay, I want to know here from you, to learn from you something, how efficient and how are you happy with customer service in Russia? When you buy a product, when you buy something and then you're looking for some help, this is not working, you maybe have that number that you call, or maybe you go to the store. What will you personally identify as a challenge of the customer service for different companies in Russia, and what will you suggest to them to maybe change and become better? Grigori? Why not? So you never bought anything? No, never? Never. Oh my God. Money free.
So I guess it really depends from the companies, and it's not usually happening in these big companies, but sometimes, I'm not sure, maybe it's a unique Russian problem, but the services will act as if you're not trying to buy, but you're trying to steal from them, and I don't know, it's really, really unpleasant to meet that in real life. So.
Well, recently I had to return back a microphone because it wasn't working properly, and probably another side of that question is that customer service don't want to return your money back because you already bought the product, so use it. And the point was that I was returning that microphone and thought that it doesn't work, and well, the person returned me money successfully, but my mother was standing behind my back, and she told that he just looked at me for a few seconds, then looked at her and decided not to argue and just.
Okay, so that was the power of mother, having it behind you. Good.
Well, I really appreciate how Apple deals in this sphere, and they have this website, Apple support, I guess, and you may just solve your problem through this website. If you have some ordinary problem, for example, I had one, and I've just checked how to deal with it in the website, and it helped. And otherwise, you can just call, or even write a message. Please call me like in 10 minutes, and they will call you back, and you will talk with some operator. I don't know, like, who knows how to fix your problem, and you don't need to go to the shop or somewhere else in order to fix it. And it's you spend much less time than it usually in these situations, and yeah, I really like it.
I can say that now is the time of the customer service. It's much cheaper to work with the retention of your customers than getting one new. And at the end, now customer service in Russia become much better, but it still need to grow. So if you want to grow your company, you need to work with the customer service as much better than you can.
I saw somebody behind having some other thoughts. I don't know if that person wants to share. Do you want to share your thoughts?
I definitely agree with Konstantin because I work for a small business, and we try every day fight for our customers. And I know that our partners who are like us small businesses, they try to do everything for best services that we ever can do. And when we compare big company, maybe global or company from government budget, they have maybe different strategy, but we try to fight for our customers by good relationships. We can talk about their family. We can sometimes ask about their health, and we try to help them with low price, with special offers. And actually, I think that in all Russia, small business is always in situations in trend for growth. But in budget, in administrative, maybe companies, I don't know the situation, but sometimes we we see that it's not a good service actually.
So I wanted to tell maybe two things. First, that the customer protection law is working really well in Russia. It was written 22 years ago, and it's still really well written, easy to understand, and companies are afraid of it because judges in Russia are always on the side of customer. It's just like case studies on that. So if they are not really putting their effort to return the money, you can just say according to the customer protection law. You don't even need to mention the article. They are already like ready to give you the money back. And the second thought that I had is that it really depends on which company that is in Russia. If it's a small company selling services, they are most definitely will do anything to please you because it's really a lot of competitors, other small businesses. But it's even if it's a big company, they are already on a certain level. They will do everything to reduce costs, and have more money. Depends.
Okay, so all good news, and I think that there are two things then that we can actually take away from. One is to have your mother behind you, and another one is actually really to have knowledge, because sometimes we really don't know what we are entitled to, and like your example said that there is a law that is functioning, and then maybe we should be educating ourselves a little bit more about our rights. Now, these are the actually two opposite things. What do you want? You definitely want to have actually very high turnover of inventories. You don't want inventories to just simply stand there because, as I said, that costs money. And like any business that we talk about, every business has limited resources. If we have limited resources, and if we are using it to pay for inventories, we are missing opportunities where we can use those actually precious resources to come up with a better idea, maybe a better product or something else. And then also, how many weeks worth of inventory does the company have on hand? High value of weeks of supply means that the firm has a lot of inventory sitting around. That needs to be adjusted, that needs to be reduced. Now, another really excellent example. So we saw example about Toyota, and now I want to share with you example of Walmart that really has excellent supply chain management and was able to reduce its costs significantly. So let's hear what they have to say.
This t-shirt is on sale at Walmart in the USA at an incredible $5.97. How is this price possible? Made miles away from the shop, shipped around the world, stored in a warehouse, and then onto the shelves of a store. Of course, Walmart is a giant. It's the world's biggest retailer and the third largest employer. In the USA alone, Walmart has more than 4,600 stores in which 130 million people shop each week. And around the world, every second, 400 people shop at one of the 10,700 stores that Walmart has in 27 countries. Walmart had revenues of $466.1 billion in net sales in 2012. How can Walmart stay at the top with that extraordinary profitability when it's selling t-shirts at $5.97? Let's begin by having a look at a Walmart store in the USA. The average hourly wage of the workers that sell this t-shirt is $8.81, which translates to an annual pay of $15,576 based upon Walmart's full-time status of 34 hours per week. This is significantly below the federal poverty level. Here we have a first hint. And what about benefits? If you're a part-time employee, which most Walmart workers are, you don't get any healthcare coverage by the company. Walmart holds another record on this. It is the employer that has the highest percentage of workers having to rely on government assistance, thus receiving more than $1 billion per year in subsidies from the U.S. taxpayers. Faced with these conditions, don't Walmart workers in the USA complain? They do, but every worker who speaks out faces instant retaliation measures, ranging from disciplinary hearings to hour cuts and even dismissal. But let's get back to the journey of our t-shirt. Walmart is the largest mover and seller of goods in the world. Most of the goods sold at Walmart in the US are made abroad. When arriving in the country, they're stored in giant warehouses run by third-party contractors hired by Walmart. Agency workers and day laborers work inside these warehouses in an extremely stressful and dangerous environment where injuries and accidents are common. They're paid very low wages tied to a piece rate system, receive no benefits, and face retaliation if they report injuries or complain about conditions. And what do we find if we follow the t-shirt back to its place of origin? Walmart's supply chain comprises more than 100,000 suppliers and millions of workers. The company's purchasing practices aim to get the maximum flexibility and the lowest prices from its suppliers, who in order to do business with Walmart, pass on these pressures to their own workers with very poor pay and often dangerous working conditions. Our t-shirt is made in Bangladesh, the world's second most important garment producer. Bangladesh textile workers are among the lowest paid in the world. 60 to 80-hour work weeks, no overtime pay, no health care, and illegal subcontracting are common. Workers who speak out about these conditions and try to organize regularly face intimidation, dismissal, and even violence. Walmart is the second largest buyer of garments from Bangladesh, a country where more than half of textile factories are vulnerable to collapse, and fires with fatal consequences have become commonplace. After the largest factory fire in the history of Bangladesh, in which 117 workers died, Walmart explicitly refused to pay more to upgrade Bangladeshi factory buildings. And even after the deadliest industrial accident in the history of the world, when the Rana Plaza building collapsed and 1,129 people died in horrendous circumstances, Walmart refused to join a large number of global companies that signed a legally binding agreement to improve building and fire safety in Bangladesh. Perhaps our $5.97 t-shirt was made right here at Rana Plaza. That would mean that Walmart is a top company because it aims to cut costs at any price across its giant supply chain and stores, without any consideration for ethical standards or social responsibilities. And this certainly doesn't only affect those supplying and working for Walmart. With its size and reach, Walmart is dictating standards that affect workers in all industries and all around the world, leading the global race to the bottom for working conditions. Taking on a giant such as Walmart requires workers and unions at every part of the...
Okay, I wanted to show you this little bit more extreme video about the practices of Walmart. So there are a lot of things here that are really important to address, but I want to also give you another update here. A lot of those practices that they were talking in this video were really the way that they explained, in a sense that most of the Walmart associates really don't have health care and benefits. But guess what? This is one of those ways when you have a little bit more knowledge, you have a little bit more organization, and now Walmart is addressing those really, really very, very serious complaints and making some significant changes. However, we still have those issues that are definitely very, very serious one in the sense okay, what do we want as people? What do we want as individual? What do we want as a customer? Do we want cheap product, affordable product, or do we want a little bit higher price product? And this is sometimes when on one side we are quick to blame the companies that are not following rules and regulations and corporate social responsibilities. But on the other side, we are sometimes having two heads at the same time, and then we will go and buy those cheap products. So we also have to be honest to ourselves and address those issues on those little bit broader levels, not just focusing on the company, because as you know, sometimes, if not more of the times, as they said, you need two people to tango. You also have that each problem has two sides of the problem. And to be honest and to be really serious about resolving that particular problem, we really have to look about both sides of the problem in order to solve that. So all of this, I wanted to show you the extreme video because sometimes we only focus on positive sides, forgetting that there is a price for all of that. But at the same time, I want to tell you that Walmart is really making some significant changes in their labor practices nowadays, again, based on these really complaints and in a certain way very negative public relations, if you want. The thing with if you are now on the side of the supplier, there is also there like an issue. Walmart is the biggest retailer in the world. So what does that mean? If I become a supplier for Walmart, I pretty much resolve all my problems. I have a guarantee market. It's not any longer 100. It's like in 10,000s, in millions. So, do I want Walmart as do I want to be a supplier of Walmart? But that means that I will have to cut costs. That means that maybe I personally as a supplier will not pay my associates enough. So again, a very, very complicated thing. And I actually happen to know people around the globe that are small suppliers, in a sense small suppliers. I mean, for them, getting a client like Walmart is really a big deal. But as you know, everything has a cost side and the benefit side. And again, if we want to be honest to ourselves and honest to the problem, we have actually to observe it from both sides. There are some interesting actually practices in the United States. You have some counties and some cities that are not allowing Walmart to come to them. And they're simply saying, we don't want to destroy, as they call it, moms and pops shops. those are those small, privately owned companies. They want to have that flavor that is producing that particular city. And we don't want to go with this low price product and to get more. So you have those options as well. Sometimes you have also that Walmart is not allowed in downtown areas because people who are living downtown don't want that much traffic. Or in certain areas, they don't want that much traffic, which definitely a store of Walmart is going to generate. So there are different ways, but they actually are really, really efficient in their supply chain in the sense of when I focus on supply chain with Walmart is really in the area of transportation, distribution. They have well-organized distribution channels in United States. In particular, they are successful abroad, but not as successful as United States. And do you maybe know another company, American company, that is very, very successful in this with these distribution channels? Absolutely. Amazon is the one that have those distribution channels, and it's really, really very efficient and a very, 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 very big company. Now, these are supply chain management systems, and this is how it works. We have here the company that has a headquarter in London. They have sales representatives in Brussels, and then they have actually factory in Hong Kong. So this is all one company, but this is how that whole system works. We have customer orders, then we have production, then we have warehouses, then we have shipment, then we have tracking on all of that, and then we have the guys, need money. So we have to then distribute the financial flows to all of them. And then finally we have a payroll with accounts receivable and payable. So that's a simplified version. How one company that has like 3 locations with a corporate factory and sales representatives can work. How many of you are familiar with this total quality management concept? So we heard about just in time. Over here you have total quality management versus acceptable quality level. What will be acceptable quality level? Acceptable quality level will be the minimum quality defect that that the market will accept for your particular product. Where the total quality management is really, really very, very much different. So let's see about total quality management with the video, and then we may have some discussion.
In this video, we will be learning about the concept of total quality management, also referred to as TQM for short. We will learn what is total quality management, what are the principles of total quality management, and what are its limitations. In today's global markets, competition continues to get harder, and it is becoming essential for companies to provide more consistent or better quality products and services to their customers. In order to provide such quality products and services that meets or exceeds customers' expectations, a key management approach, such as total quality management, should be implemented by organizations. So what exactly is total quality management? Well, total means the involvement and input of everyone in the organization, from top management to its employees. Quality means fully meeting customer needs and requirements all the time. And management is the way we act and operate our policies and procedures, including our training and instruction to all our employees. Thereby, TQM can be defined according to Cohen Hasme, 2007, as a management philosophy that seeks to integrate all organizational functions such as marketing, finance, engineering, customer services, and so forth, to focus on meeting customer needs and organizational objectives. And these are the quality gurus in history, who each played a part in developing the quality management approach of TQM as it is today. They are W. Edwards Deming, Joseph N. Jaron, Armand V. Genborn, and Philip B. Crosby. Following are the 8 principles of total quality management. The first principle is customer focus, whereby The company must place the customer at the center of attention in order to understand their needs so that they can meet or exceed their expectations. The second principle is leadership, by establishing a unity of purpose and organizational direction where all members of an organization can share a common goal or aim. The third is the involvement and utilization of the entire workforce by creating an environment without fear that encourages every employee's involvement and achievement of the organization's objectives. Fourth is process approach, recognizing that things accomplished as a result of processes. The fifth is the strategic and systematic approach to management. A company's strategic plan must incorporate quality as its core component. The strategy here is doing the right things, right, the first time and every time. The sixth is continual improvement, creating a culture of continuous improvement for zero defects, zero errors and zero accidents. The seventh is factual approach to decision making, meaning decisions must only be based on accurate, relevant and reliable data and information. And the eighth principle is mutually beneficial supplier relationships, where both the company and the supplier can benefit from one another's resources and no harm resulting in value for all. Now, as with any organizational system, total quality management has its limitations, though it may differ from one company to another. As such, let's look at two limitations that occur with this management approach. The first is cost in time and money. Implementing TQM systems can take many years. During these long years, substantial costs can accrue due to the lengthy process of training employees, which also takes a significant investment by the company in terms of money and the utilization of resources. So, adopting the TQM process can be quite expensive and exhausting. Second is the fear of change. Because of increasing global competition, many organizations are replacing the traditional approach with a TQM approach. However, there are those employees that resist change due to uncertainty, doubt, and fear from these rapid global changes. And this is what sometimes, but so hold in organizations with successfully implementing the TQM system. Despite these limitations above, there are companies that have successfully implemented the TQM approach and have gone on to achieve long-term success, growth, and survival. An example of such a company would be the Toyota Motor Company. In relation to TQM, they put the customer first. Second, they continually improved their products, also referred to as Kaizen, which means continuous improvement. And third, they fostered total participation by encouraging all employees to be involved in making effective contributions towards the development of the company and the achievements of its objectives. In this video,
I wanted to show you this video because it really shows that it's not, sometimes when we think about total quality, when we think about quality, we only focus on the quality of the product. But total quality management is not only about the quality of the product, it's really the quality of the whole structure of one organization. So that's why it's very, very important. Does any of your company use total quality management or any other maybe way of improving the quality or? Nope. Okay.
Say one of my customers, they are right now we are working on improving the quality of services, of course, the customer services, and quality of the products and other things.
Okay, thank you. Can we switch to the presentation? Thank you. Okay. So the last points that I want to focus on is actually outsourcing. And you probably heard about that topic, but very often in the company, we have a question, we have a dilemma. Should we produce everything ourselves? Should we produce everything inside the company, or should we outsource? Outsourcing can be outside the company, but that outside the company can be inside the country, or it can be outside the company outside my country. So it can be inside Russia and outside Russia. So in a general terms, the company has this dilemma, you know, should I or should I not outsource? What would be some of those reasons why the company may actually contemplate to outsource, not to produce everything inside the company? Why should they think, okay, well, maybe somebody else can do this, maybe, yeah.
For example, if it is a young company and, for example, some parts of product they can't do it in a proper quality, and it's easier to buy the good this part to make their product better.
Or another one option, if we are, for example, gas oil company such as Gazprom, and we need to build something and it's not our specialization, and we know that someone may do it better than we are, and therefore we have some outsource departments inside the Gazprom, but they call it outsourced resources, while it's still Gazprom строительство, building, and I don't know why it's so, but it's so.
Said it's really, really very important, because sometimes you know that somebody else is doing that better, cheaper, so why not give them that and then you focus on what you do the best.
So I have a similar example. For example, in Apple, not only young companies with outsourcing, other companies produce their chips, their displays, like wireless models and so on.
Very, very good. And again, let's do the best what we can do. Let somebody else do the things that they do the best. Again, going back to that very, very simple and basic economic principle, we have limited resources. How we can use them the best in the most efficient way. Again, when we talk about our sources, we have two options in addition to should we outsource it inside the country or outside. We can also think about outsources only one activity or completely outsourcing this. And as you have already mentioned, these are some of the reasons why we should outsource, because organizational reasons, operational reasons, focus on core capabilities. Here, risk management, like somebody else takes the risk of producing something instead of us. We also have financial reasons and cost-driven reasons and revenue-driven reasons. And basically, that will conclude for tonight, because I know some of you have to catch buses and other sorts of transportation. So have fun. Next time when we meet is going to be on Thursday. This is going to be the last class for open course. And am I right that we will have their certificates? Yes, and we will have your certificates ready. So if you were attending this course for all those weeks, I want to thank you for that. So be sure to come next week as well so you can get your certificate. For everybody else, we are going to see